The Baby by the Dustbin. My name is Sally. Once upon a time, in the quiet, snowy streets of Alaska, there lived a young man named Tony. He was a humble factory worker who always walked home after the late-night shift. One very cold, rainy night, as he passed by the back of an old store, he heard a faint cry. At first, he thought it was a cat, but when he looked closer near the dustbin, his heart nearly stopped. There was a tiny newborn baby, wrapped in a thin, wet cloth, shivering in the rain. Tony's hands shook as he picked up the baby. "Oh my God, who would do this?" he whispered, looking around, but there was no one. The rain was pouring so hard that his jacket was soaked. He held the baby close to his chest to keep her warm. She was so small, so helpless, her tiny fingers gripping his thumb. Tony ran home as fast as he could. His small apartment was not much, but it was warm. He found an old towel and wrapped the baby. "You are safe now," he said softly, as if the baby could understand. He boiled water, warmed some milk, and fed her with a spoon because he had no bottle. That night, Tony could not sleep. He kept looking at her, afraid something might happen. The next morning, Tony went to the hospital to make sure the baby was okay. The nurse smiled sadly. "She is healthy, just very cold and hungry. You saved her life." Tony felt a strange happiness inside him. "I can't just leave her," he said. "I want to take care of her." The nurse asked for his name to file a report. "Tony Williams," he replied with pride. Days turned into weeks, and Tony named the baby Hope because he felt she was a gift from God. Life was not easy. Tony had to work extra shifts to buy baby food, diapers, and clothes. Many nights, he came home tired but still smiled when he saw Hope sleeping peacefully. "You are my reason to fight," he would whisper. Hope grew into a beautiful little girl. She loved to laugh, and her laughter filled Tony's small apartment with joy. Every morning before work, he would braid her hair and say, "Daddy loves you." Hope would giggle and reply, "I love you more." The bond between them grew stronger every single day. One day at school, Hope asked her teacher, "Why don't I have a mommy?" The teacher gently said, "You can ask your daddy about that." That evening, Hope looked at Tony with her big curious eyes. "Daddy, where's my mommy?" Tony's heart broke, but he knelt down and said, "I found you when you were a baby. Your mommy could not take care of you, so I did." Hope hugged him and said, "Then you are my mommy and my daddy." Years passed, and Hope became a smart teenager. She studied hard because she wanted to make Tony proud. Tony worked 2 jobs to pay for her school fees. Many people told him to leave her at an orphanage when she was a baby, but he never listened. "She is my daughter," he always said. Hope got a scholarship to study business in college. Tony cried on the day she left for campus. "Go and shine, my daughter," he said, hugging her tightly. Hope replied, "I will make you proud, Daddy." Tony watched the bus leave with tears of joy rolling down his cheeks. Hope worked hard in school. She sold handmade jewelry to support herself and even sent money home to Tony. "Daddy, you don't have to work too hard anymore," she said on a phone call one night. Tony laughed. "I can't stop working, my little star, but I am proud of you." After college, Hope started her own small business selling beauty products. At first, it was hard, but Tony encouraged her. "Rome was not built in a day," he said. Slowly, the business grew, and soon, Hope became very successful. 5 years later, Hope was no longer just a small business owner. She had built a big company that shipped products all over the United States. She became one of the youngest Black American female billionaires. Reporters came to interview her, and she always said, "I owe everything to my father, Tony Williams." One day, Hope decided to tell the full story publicly. She organized a big event and stood on stage with Tony by her side. "This man you see," she said, pointing at Tony, "is my hero. He found me as a newborn baby by a dustbin, and he chose to raise me as his own. Today, I am who I am because of him." The crowd stood up and clapped. Tony wiped his tears. The story went viral. TV stations, newspapers, and social media were full of Hope and Tony's pictures. Far away in another town, a woman named Mary saw the news on TV. She was Hope's biological mother. Her hands trembled as she held the remote. That's my baby," she whispered with tears streaming down her face. Mary could not sleep that night. Guilt tore her heart apart. She remembered the night she left the baby in the rain. She had been poor, abandoned by the baby's father, Jake, and had no money to feed herself. "I had no choice," she cried, but now she wanted to see her daughter. The next morning, Mary traveled to Alaska. She found Tony's house and knocked on the door. Tony opened and was shocked. "Yes? Can I help you?" Mary said in a shaky voice, "I am the mother of Hope." Tony's face changed. He didn't know what to say. When Hope came home that evening, Tony told her what happened. Hope looked at Mary with cold eyes. "So, you are the woman who left me by a dustbin." Mary dropped to her knees, crying, "I am sorry. I was poor. I had nothing. Please forgive me." Hope's heart was torn. Tony touched her shoulder. "Hope, forgiveness is powerful, but the choice is yours." Hope took a deep breath. "I can forgive you," she said slowly, "but I will never leave my father. He is my real parent." Mary nodded sadly. "I understand. I just wanted to see you, to know that you are alive and well." Hope said, "I am alive because of this man. I am who I am because of him. You may be my mother, but he is my family." Mary left quietly that night. Tony sat with Hope. "You did the right thing, my daughter," he said softly. Hope looked at him and said, "Daddy, I will build a home for children like me, children who are abandoned, so they will never feel alone." The day Tony became very sick was the coldest winter Alaska had seen in years. Snow covered the whole street, and the wind howled like a sad song. Hope rushed home from a business meeting the moment she got the call. She entered the room and saw Tony lying on his bed, looking so weak. His breathing was slow, and his once strong hands were trembling. "Daddy," Hope said softly, fighting back her tears. Tony turned his head slowly, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. "My little star," he whispered. Hope knelt by his bed and held his hand tight. "Don't leave me, Daddy. Please fight for me." Tony coughed lightly and said, "I have been fighting all my life, Hope, but now I just want to rest." Tears rolled down Hope's cheeks as she placed her head on his chest, listening to the slow beat of his heart. Tony looked into Hope's eyes. "Promise me something," he said weakly. Hope nodded, crying. "Anything, Daddy." Tony smiled faintly. "Promise me you will keep helping those children. Promise me you will never stop giving love to the ones who have no one." Hope swallowed her tears and nodded. "I promise, Daddy. I will build homes all over the world if I have to. I will be the reason abandoned children smile again." Tony's eyes glistened with tears. "That's my girl." Then, slowly, he closed his eyes and took his final breath. Hope held him tightly and cried loudly, her voice echoing through the small room. It was the most painful moment of her life. The funeral was beautiful. People from the entire community came to pay their respects. Reporters, business leaders, and even children from the orphanage stood in the snow with candles. Hope stood before the casket, holding a picture of Tony. "This man saved me," she said, her voice shaking. "He was not my blood, but he was my heart. Everything I am today is because he believed in me." Many people cried that day. Some whispered to each other, saying, "Tony Williams was a true hero." After the funeral, Hope kept her promise. She sold one of her luxury houses and used the money to build the biggest and most beautiful orphanage Alaska had ever seen. The building had warm bedrooms, colorful classrooms, a playground, and a big kitchen where no child would ever go hungry. She named it Tony's Home of Hope. On the day of the grand opening, Hope cut the ribbon and said, "This is for you, Daddy." Children ran into the building laughing, and Hope felt Tony smiling from heaven. Every Christmas, Hope visited the orphanage with gifts. She would sit on the floor with the children, reading them bedtime stories, just like Tony used to read to her. "You are all special," she would tell them. "You are loved." The children called her Mama Hope. Each time she heard that, she smiled with pride. She knew she was keeping Tony's dream alive. One evening, years later, Hope got a surprise visitor. It was Mary, her biological mother. Mary was much older now, with gray hair and kind but tired eyes. She walked slowly toward Hope. "I came not to take you away," Mary said softly, "but to say I am proud of you. You turned your pain into something beautiful." Hope's heart softened. She hugged Mary for the first time. "I forgive you, Mama," she whispered. Mary broke down in tears, saying, "Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you." From that day, Mary began volunteering at the orphanage. She cooked meals for the children, helped with their homework, and told them stories about her own life mistakes so they would not repeat them. The children loved her. Hope realized that healing was not just about forgiving others, but also about giving them a chance to do better. One night, Hope stood outside the orphanage looking at the stars. She spoke quietly as if talking to Tony. "Daddy, look at us. We did it. We turned a story that began by a dustbin into a story of hope for hundreds of children." She smiled through her tears. A shooting star passed across the sky, and she felt as if Tony was saying, "I'm proud of you, my little star." Hope decided to write a book about her life story, naming it The Baby by the Dustbin. The book became a bestseller and inspired millions around the world. People wrote to Hope, saying her story gave them courage to adopt children, to forgive their past, and to believe in love again. Hope traveled the world, giving speeches about the power of love and second chances. Many years later, when Hope was old and gray, she sat in a rocking chair at the orphanage, watching children play. She whispered to herself, "Love saved me, and now love is saving them." As the children ran to hug her, she smiled and closed her eyes, feeling Tony's presence. The legend of Hope and Tony lived on forever, teaching the world that family is not just who gives you life, but who gives you love. Love is not defined by blood, but by sacrifice. The people who choose to love you, protect you, and guide you, even when they don't have to, are your true family. Forgive those who hurt you, but never forget those who stood by you when you had nothing. If you learned something from this story, comment 100%, subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification bell, like, share with friends and family. See you on our next video.